In this video, we'll be creating a visualization in Tableau of crime statistics data for Western Australia. Now, the data was obtained from this particular website, the Western Australia Police Force, under the crime, and you can see the crime statistics. The specific data that we'll be using is under this link, download reports and data. And then we went to the archived statistics report, which is this one. And we'll be creating the visualization using 2018-19 financial year. So once this is downloaded, you will be able to see that the downloaded data looks like this, which is in PDF. So make it a bit smaller. Essentially, the first page of the PDF file will show you the contents. So this is Western Australia. You can see that this particular document shows the crime statistics data for 2018-2019 financial year for Western Australia as a whole, and then regional WA and metropolitan WA, and in the 15 police districts, which are within Western Australia. It also shows the rates per 100,000 people for each of those locations. Now, having a look at the data set, we have the Western Australia data set, which is obviously the total number of crimes, incidents or crimes committed in Western Australia in the financial year 2018-19. So we have got the homicide, and then we have got some subcategories under that. And we'll come back to that in a moment. But this is for Western Australia as a whole. The second page or the third page of this document shows the rate per 100,000 people. And then it provides metropolitan region. These are obviously the number of incidents. Then the next page is 100,000 people for metropolitan. The next page is about regional WA. And again, the rate. Now, we'll not be using the rate to create our visualization. So we'll be focusing mainly on the metropolitan and the regional WA region. Now, one thing to note is that the total for Western Australia is actually a sum of the number of incidents in regional area and in metropolitan area. So for example, homicide in regional area in July 2018 is 3. In metropolitan, it is 8. So 3 plus 8 is 11. So if we go to the WA figures, we can see that it's 11. So essentially, the total for metropolitan and the regional, sorry, the sum of metropolitan regional makes up the total for Western Australia. So that's one important thing to remember. The other thing is that we're going to be looking at the way the data is provided in the PDF file. And this is actually not a good way to provide it in Tableau. If we want to create a visualization, we cannot actually take this table and just put it in Tableau. We'll have to do some formatting change to this table to make it usable in Tableau. So looking at the table, and that is something that one must do before they bring it to Tableau and create visualization. And the reason we want to create a visualization, I think, is also important. And the reason we want to do that is basically to find out which of the which values are high, and so that the police force, for example, can decide where to put their resources, for example, or which areas to focus on, for example. So as I said, this table is not really usable in Tableau, so we'll have to kind of, as I said, reformat it. So before we do that, let's have a look at the data set in a bit more detail so we know what we need to reformat, what we need to do. The first thing to note is that there are often categories. The bolded one obviously are the categories. The ones underneath that are obviously the subcategories. So we have the subcategory, we have the categories. Now, the categories have been added up. So for example, 4 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 equals 8. Similarly, 135, 86 is 221. We don't want that. We want Tableau to calculate it. So we'll be removing these categories and putting it in column. That's the other thing. In Tableau, we need to put these dimensions on column. So we'll be doing that as well. The other thing, we see that these categories uh, form offenses against person, and then these categories form offenses against property, and then we have detected offenses, and then we have miscellaneous offenses. So there are categories, there are different totals, subcategories, so we can reformat it in a Tableau, and we'll see how to do that very shortly. The other thing is that we're going to be looking at metropolitan region and also the regional region in WA. So in the data set, we'll need to bring in those two. We'll have to combine the tables basically. So this table will need to be combined with regional WA to create a good visualization for us, so we can actually compare regional versus metropolitan. Now we can go to Excel and kind of download the PDF file. um, and one way to do that, and we can't do it, or I can't do it actually here, is basically to go to data. If you have Office 365, you can go to data and then click on get data from file, and then you'll have an option that says from PDF. Now, the one that I'm using is Office 2019. So it doesn't have that option. So what I had to do was I had to go to, excuse me, I had to go to a particular website called Clever PDF and convert the tables into an Excel file, as you see here. So once you use that particular website, it converts the PDF tables in PDF to an Excel document like you see here. And as you can see, the website actually converts all the tables into various um, tabs basically in the um, Excel file. So we have got on page 2 for WA, page 3 for the rates, and so forth. This is actually good enough. We can work on this one. So a few things, again, few things to remember. This homicide is actually the total. These are the subtotals, or subcategories rather. So this is the category, these are the subcategories. This is a category, these are the subcategories. So we need to remove these categories. So we need to, as I said, reformat it. We will also get rid of these two columns that we do not need for our visualization. We'll also get rid of these additional information which we do not need for creating visualization in Tableau. We'll also get rid of the explanatory notes. We don't need them. We can always look at these notes in the PDF file if we need them. And we'll need to combine it with the regional data set, which is on page 6. That's the regional WA. So once we have done all of those things, and that will have to be done in a manual way. Once we have done all of those things, the result is something like this. So we have the offense subcategory and then offense category. So if you remember, these 4 offense subcategories were actually part of the offense category. So we have put that as offense category. And then the totals, they were in the PDF document. All these items were part of total against the person. So we have got the total as well. And we have got the location as well. So this data relates to metropolitan data. And then we kind of just added or appended the regional information at the bottom. And so the data set looks pretty much like this. And as you can see, we have gotten rid of the last 2 columns that we had. We have gotten rid of all the notes and the headings. So this looks quite good and something that we can actually use to create visualizations in Tableau, and which is what we'll be doing next. So we'll be going to the Tableau. Now, one thing to remember looking at that particular data set is that that data set is still not really usable in Tableau. We'll still have to do something in Tableau, and I'll show that in a moment, to kind of make it usable in Tableau, or make it easy for us to create the visualization in Tableau. So the easy way to upload an Excel file is just to click on Microsoft Excel and then go to the Tableau side and just click the one that we'll be using. So the one we'll be using is this one, Metropolitan Regional Combined Data Set, and we say open, and it opens. Now, the problem with this data set, as I said, is that these values, which is the month, should be on the should be pivoted, basically. In other words, should be turned around. So the way we do that is to select the first column and then press Shift, and keeping the Shift button pressed, we just go to the last column and select the last column. And then we select this downward arrow. And once we click on that with our left mouse button, we say pivot, and it just pivots it. Now, once it pivots it, you can see that there are some issues with it. First of all, these are obviously string values. So that's ABC is a string value. That's fine. You can actually go and click this downward arrow. Sorry, you can click on this ABC button and actually see that is string value. So these are all strings because they are obviously text, but this one is not string. First of all, it says pivot field names. It's actually month. So we can go and double click on this pivot field names and say month, enter. This one is obviously the number of incidents. So we can say number of incidents, enter. Now, obviously this is a date. So obviously this is not a string at the moment. Tableau is considering it as a string. We just go and click on the ABC and then say it should be considered as a date. And so now we have a date. This one is obviously also being considered as a string, but they should be considered as a whole number. Now, if this was a rate, if you remember that the table also had rate per 100,000 people, then we'll be selecting decimals. But because we do not have any decimals, the number of incidents will be a whole number. So we have this pretty much ready to go. Now we can go and actually create some visualizations. Now, if we go to the sheet one where we create the visualization, we still see there are some issues in the sense that number of incident. Now, first of all, I should actually say that these items are actually the dimensions, and these items which are in green, highlighted in green, when I hover my mouse on it, these are the measures. Now, measures are numbers, dimensions are strings or categories. Obviously, as you can see, one of the values here, a number of incidents, is considered as a dimension when it should actually be considered as a measure. So the way we can bring this to the measure place is just to click on this white downward arrow, and then we can say convert to measure, and so it goes in the measure. Now let's create some visualizations. Tableau is very good in creating visualizations very easily. So let's have a look at offense category and just put it on the row column. We can put it here, or we can put it on the sheet as well. And we want to look at the number of incidents. We can put it here, or we can put it in column. It doesn't matter. Now let's actually do a quick check. So the arson, and these are all alphabetical. So arson, total number of incidents in the financial year is 939. So we can actually go back to our PDF file and see if that's the number that we see. So we will know we're on the right track, basically. So we go to the figure that's for the whole of Western Australia, not the rate, but the total number of incidents. And then we look at arson, and the arson is obviously this column, is highlighted, sorry, the bolded one, and we can see that yes, for the entire financial year, the number of incidents for arson was 939. That's exactly the figure we also saw from Tableau. We can also check stealing, 88,000 for the entire year. Let's go and double check with our PDF file to see if that's the one we got. So stealing, stealing 88,000. Okay, just one there. I think that probably has to do with a bit of percentages there, rounded figures. Okay, so we know that we are pretty much okay. Our formatting of the data set has worked well. Now we can also look at the subcategories. So now we can see under arson, total was 939, but for each individual subcategories, how much was it? So we can see caused damage by fire and so forth. Now, if you want to look at by month, we can go into month. Now, in this case, it is showing by year. So we can actually go and click the downward arrow, and we can say that we want to look at by individual month for each of the years. So we can click this button, month, day, sorry, month, and we see that. Now, obviously that's not what we are looking for. So we can go and click on show me, which is actually a very useful way of selecting visualizations. And we can say show me and then select the table. And once we do that, you can see that it's actually, I think I've expanded a bit more than I actually wanted to. Okay, that's the other way to actually fix it, is just to say fix to width. And so it fixes to the width. And we can see kind of like the same table that we have in the PDF file, except in this case, these are all in alphabetical order. All right. So that's for each of the months. What else can we do with it? We can look at by location. The thing is that as we start entering more and more information in the column, obviously this thing can get really messy. For example, I can say, okay, I want to see it by location. Now I can see by location as well. If I want to see it by totals, somewhere in between, you can see that you can even see it by totals as well. So it can get really messy as we start putting in more and more in the rows column. We don't want to do that. We want to see maybe by offense. Let's say we want to see it by totals. First of all, let's see the total, just the total. Let's expand it. So we know what we are actually seeing. We need to know what this totals represents. Okay, so now we have got a sense of what these totals represent. So total detected offenses, total miscellaneous, total selected against property, and so forth. So we can see that property is obviously the highest. We can actually go to show me, and then we can select something called highlight tables. And it actually highlights it for us. Now, one of the things we can do is we can change the color. After all, these are crime statistics. So we want to use something that probably works well in this one. Now, with the crime statistics, the interesting thing is that obviously lesser crime is good, greater crime numbers are bad. So this is unlike in a situation like in a company where greater sales is good, lower sales is bad. So it's just kind of like reversed. As you can see over here, it basically is telling you that the more numbers will be in black. We have actually chosen the palette red, black, diverging, and the lower number will be red. But because it's a crime statistics, lower numbers are actually good. So we're going to click on something called reversed, and then we're going to say apply, and then we're going to say okay. So we can see that, and which we already knew just by looking at the numbers, that total selected offenses against property was the highest. So we might be interested to know, okay, now this one obviously contains categories and subcategories and locations. So we might be interested to explore it a bit more. Now, as I said, if we start putting in offense category and subcategory and location, everything in it, the table will really, really get messy. So maybe one of the best way to do that is just to select this with our left mouse button, and then it says, it gives us option actually, keep only. So you might say, okay, we want to just look at this one in a bit more detail. In other words, drill down to the subcategories basically. So we can say keep only. So that's the one that shows. You can see that it goes into the um, filter section as well. And now we can actually start putting in our subcategories and locations and things like that. So let's do that. Let's put in subcategories so we can actually see. Now this one is a bit more interesting. As you can see, not everything is red or black. There are some differences. Now remember, more reddish, that means that's bad. More black, that's actually good. If it's a little bit grayed out like that, that's kind of like in the medium. So we can easily see, if I make this a little bit bigger, we can easily see that there is one area where, or one section, or one offense subcategory that actually seems to be a problem. These are quite red, dark red in fact. So obviously stealing from motor vehicle, contents or parts, that's actually a big problem. And probably the next one, stealing from premises or places, is another one. So we might want to drill down even more. We want to say, okay, we want to look at this one even more. We can actually put in location here if we want. That's one option. We can actually see location wise, metropolitan obviously suffers the most. Regionally do not have that much incidents occurring. Okay. In fact, regional is mostly black anyway, which kind of suggests that the incident numbers are lower compared to the metropolitan areas. We can even do a bit more visualizations. Maybe we can even do lines. Let's see if we do lines, what happens. We get different types of things. As you can see, we can get 2018 by quarter and so forth. Maybe we don't want quarter, so we can actually get rid of the quarter one. And we can also get rid of the year. And then we can simply look at the month by month. And we can actually have a quick look as to what happened. So we have metropolitan and regional. These are the two categories. We can easily see that the regional is lower. Bushfire, for example, is very similar. It's low, very similar. Some differences actually show up in the damage. You can see, and as we saw in the data, that stealing from motor vehicle, stealing from premises, there is a huge difference between metropolitan and regional. Metropolitan obviously has greater number of incidents. Okay, and we can even see which times they actually have it of specific months. Which brings me to the next thing. We can actually see the minimum and maximum that has happened in that particular financial year. We just go to the label column, label card in this case, and then click on mean and max, and then show mark labels. What it does is that it gives the numbers for the minimum and maximum. So we can actually go and have a look at this one. So the maximum number of incidents for stealing from motor vehicle happened in July. In metropolitan area, it was 2,559. June, this is the lowest number for this. section. So you can see that it happened in June in the regional area. So yeah, so we can actually do different types of visualizations just by doing these kind of stuff, looking at the tables, looking at the trends, and then makes probably easier for anyone to make decisions regarding allocation of resources. So thank you very much for that.